thrilling adventure with a wolf. The great gray wolf is a terror to man and beast in the lovely forest regions of northern Europe, and many exciting stories are told of their bold attacks upon the dwellers in the villages bordering on these forests. A thrilling adventure with one of these savage beasts is related as occurring a few years ago on the borders of a large forest in Russia. In a little outlying village, a mere collection of rough log huts, there lived a fair young girl, the only child of her parents, and the affianced bride of a peasant named Ivan, a man of great strength and courage and renowned as a hunter of the savage gray wolf. Well, one evening, shortly before the wedding was to have taken place, the pretty Alaska, whose home was on the very edge of the forest, had stepped out to visit a female neighbor and exhibit some of her bridal finery. Alas, though, poor Alaska never returned. Beneath the fitful glimmer of the rising moon, a hasty search was made by her alarmed friends, only to reveal the terrible fact that she had been seized by a wolf, a few remnants of blood-stained clothing being all that was left to witness to the tragedy which had taken place just outside the forest. Immediately on the sad intelligence becoming known, 6 men headed by Ivan, whose bearded face was convulsed with fury, set off on the track of the destroyer, resolved on immediate vengeance. They had but one gun among them, and the rest of the men, being armed with clubs, hatchets, and short knives, tramp, tramp, tramp through the silent forest they went under the full splendor of the winter moon. On for miles without sight or sound of the lurking enemy, and the men conversing together in undertones, all save Ivan, who held a little aloof, too much absorbed by grief to be able to respond or even to listen to the kindly, though rough, sympathy of his neighbors and friends. Again, the moon shone out. Again, the branches of the leafless forest were bathed in silvery light, and the men began once more to quicken their steps. But where was Ivan? His companions, from respect to his grief, had suffered him to fall a few paces behind, but now he was gone. Dismay was on every face, for they knew only too well the terrible risks of going astray in the forest in the wintertime. Suddenly they heard a cry, a shrill, agonized yet choking yell, the cry of a man in some awful need. The next moment, all were rushing in the direction of the sound. Speedily they found Ivan grappling with a great gray monster whose yellow, murderous eyes were glowing in the darkness and his terrible teeth tearing at Ivan's sheepskin. The poor man had lingered too far behind his friends. He had not heard the rustle of the stealthy tread, as the savage animal cunningly followed his straying footsteps. At length, with a snarl, it had shot out from the darkest thicket and fallen upon him, and then Ivan, in his agony, had uttered that cry which brought his friends to his aid. And not a moment too soon, Ivan was completely exhausted. Everything was swimming before his eyes. A rushing, roaring sound was in his ears, and he was just falling to the ground when a fatal bullet was buried in the monster's side, and his skull was shattered by the blows from one or more hatchets. Ivan, though insensible when picked up, was scarcely even wounded, his thick sheepskin cloak having saved him from the terrible fangs of his adversary, perhaps the very monster that had robbed him of his promised bride. This story took place around 1900, and it is a true account that happened. And so I hope you found this interesting. Thanks for stopping by. God bless y'all.